Just a quick housekeeping. My name is Dwayne Kuroda. I'm from Proofpoint. And for those of you who haven't been scanned, we're giving away a boardless skateboard at booth 1949. So if you're scanned, you're automatically entered into that. If you win, and obviously you have to have a valid email address, we will email you tonight. And if you don't win tonight, we'll do a drawing again for tomorrow. Okay? So get scanned. Come see us, come talk to us at the booth afterward. So I think, are we ready? We're ready? Okay. So I'm here to talk about why cybercriminals know more about your employees or your coworkers than you do. Right? It's kind of an interesting little concept, and the little description within the program talks about how a couple tools can help people know what's going on. And the reason why this history is important is even 5 years ago, when people talk about an APT attack, there would be all this research and recon involved with it, and it was really hard to do. But in the span of 5 years, things have changed dramatically, which also means that the way that we are attacked changes dramatically. And so we go through this process. I'm starting to talk about this information that they can get, how attackers see people in your organization and why they may be attacking people who aren't your VPs, how they are attacking your people, sort of that scope and breadth of what those attacks look like, and then a little tidbit at the end about how they get this information. And as a forewarning, anything I show you in this last section, I'm not encouraging you to do the same to other people, because there are some tools there which are not things that you might normally use yourselves, but the bad guys are using them, okay? So why do they care, right? The first thing is to look at the far right, $12 billion. $12 billion is essentially what the FBI has said is the size of this problem. Credential phishing attack, account takeovers, hitting nearly 80,000 organizations. Only a fraction of those 80,000 organizations are here learning about this kind of thing and some of the stuff that we see of this, right? But what makes this incredibly interesting is now there's lots of money. Well, it turns out that most of the attacks that are getting through are human activated. We need to convince you to click, right? And I remember before I started in the security business, I was one of those younger folks, and I got an email that said, employee salaries. I was like, oh my God, employee salaries, I've got to see what everybody's making, right? You can be socially engineered, and if you haven't experienced some of these things, you're not used to it, you're going to click. I clicked, right? And now I know better. But that's one of the things that people will do is human interest, human curiosity will lead to the attacks that we see today, and it happens so frequently that it's kind of a sad story here, right? The other part too is there's been a spike in URL attacks we call credential phishing. 2/3 of those are harvesting your credentials, and it's if you've looked into this, it's quite bizarre. You have someone going to a DocuSign page, and it says log in with your Google, AOL, Box, America Online, or Office 365 credentials, and DocuSign doesn't support all those different types of federated IDs, right? Okay. So what I want to put up to you is put this in perspective. So we have a view of attacks and attackers and victims at Proofpoint slightly different than what other people will look at, right? Now, this isn't just who received the highest volume of attacks, right? It's not the executive assistant here in China for this firm saw the most attacks. Didn't happen, right? But if you look at what's kind of going on, there's a pattern here. And if you just think a little bit, you'll figure out what's kind of going on. I'm going to show you another one of these, right? But think about why someone like the admin assistant might be attacked, why the head of legal affairs might be attacked, but also look at the types of attacks that are happening, right? So you've got consumer credential phishing, corporate credential phishing, all those kind of phishing type attacks hitting certain types of people, but the actual nature of what goes on, downloading for exfiltration, other things, being slightly different depending upon who is targeted, right? Now, we've got a view, come talk to me or come to our booth and ask about this attack index, because this is kind of removing a bunch of the threats that are some of the commodity malware that gives us a great view of people going after intellectual property, going after credentials to get into your systems, getting to deeper things than just stealing someone's bank account. Right? Sure, it hurts them, but once you get into the real nature of what some of these threat actors do, and yes, we track them, you get a better understanding of what happens. This is another one. That last one was, I can't tell you the customer, sorry. This one is in transportation, different business, but what you'll see here is that the types of attacks have changed dramatically, and they will change based on your industry, and it will change, affect based upon your title. Now this one is interesting because the CEO made it up higher in that list than it did in that last one, right? But if you think about this, sure, you've got some VIPs, people who are VP of this, VP of that, CXO, whatever it might be, right? Things you might normally be trying to protect, but there's other people here you might not be thinking about, right? An operations manager, maintenance and reliability. Like, why are they important? And if you spend just a minute thinking about it, you realize why these people actually are important, what kind of information they have access to. And if you take a step back and you think about, well, I'm protecting all my my VIPs, my executives, and my CXOs. Am I protecting everybody else? Everybody else may not have to be protected at the same level, but think about them, right? Is everybody trained equally? Sometimes the CXOs might have, extra permission, sure, but who controls their address book? Who controls their contact lists? Who has, federated rights or surrogate rights to email on their behalf, right? Think about some of these things, because that person who's making, whether it's $30,000 to $80,000 as some kind of admin or executive admin, they've got people's inboxes under their control at certain levels, right? Think about that, but think about these other people too. Do they control source code? They control financial data, HIPAA database, right? PCI information. Now, what this boils down to is that there are different things that people will look for. The attackers look under the security and compliance side. There are privileged users, right? Your VP should have privileges to access certain things. You've got vulnerable users, people who might be either untrained, not smart enough, or just like to click everything. And you've got highly connected users. Everybody knows someone in a company. Ask so-and-so, they know all these people. Well, how effective is a lure going to be if that connected person gets popped, right? The same side, you look at compliance, right? Highly regulated users, you've got regulated data, so someone got your transaction database again, and sensitive activities. We're reviewing this 501(k) application for my medical device. If you're doing that, you exactly know what's happening, when it's happening, at what level. That's the kind of thing you see in insider trading when someone pops those people, right? Might just be the compliance manager, but something gets approved, that information gets out there, insider trading skyrockets, right? But in both of these cases, right, the people at the intersection of these things are what we call high-risk people. And they're not always vice presidents and CXOs, right? And hopefully at some minimum, as I talk about this, people will think beyond a VIP as a CXO or a vice president, because that's really what we're seeing in the marketplace. Now, typically what people will look at, hey, I've got some executive, he's got lots of connections, works at this bank, right? You've got financial advisors, those guys who call you up and say, hey, I've got a financial plan, how are you going to retire, right? Think about those folks. Now get to a little more detail what it means to the attackers. And then you've got people who are, of course, sysadmins, many of the administrators here with access to all the servers in your organization, right? Now the attackers look at these three people. They may not be vice presidents except for this guy, but they see them and they put him on their radar, right? He is a vice president. He's a VIP by role. Lots of connections. People will target him. Right? They'll try all different ways to get to that person. Impersonation attacks are the ones they ideally get because the executives report to executives and talk to executives. But this one, financial advisor, right? How many of you have financial advisors? Come on, some of you, anybody, right? Right? And my financial advisor's got at least 500 clients, They got 500 clients. And when you think about what that means, they're moving your IRA, they've got your funds, they've got your bank account and your routing number. They have all that information, which if they get popped, that's your financial livelihood, right? Think about that, right? Who's normally these people? They're not VIPs, but they're VAPs. We call them very attacked people. Similar on this side here, right? You might think you're going to protect your admins. Yeah, people are going to think about his systems, his servers, its source code, its check-in, whatever it might be. Yeah, those people are also targeted too. But there's a bunch of people like this person in the middle who are just completely off the radar, but we see a lot of these attacks. In fact, a couple months ago, we were getting a bunch of research librarians attacked. Some of you have heard of something called silent librarian that attack anybody? Anybody? But literally, we had nation-state actors going after research librarians at universities so they could get that intellectual property, right? And it's one of those things now because of all the tools that are out there, you can figure out who is the financial analyst, who is the research librarian, and sometimes they'll list some of the things they have access to in some of these profiles. Now, I'm going to go over an interesting case study. This is someone who had a problem, which is now our customer because of some of the visibility that we have. But basically, they have a Office 365 tenant, and the CEO got popped. I'm not going to say how. It might have been brute force, might have been credential abuse, may have been some mechanism, but the CEO got popped. And the attackers got in. They didn't just get emails so they could broadcast. In fact, there were no emails being abused at all. The attacker just sat on this account and was reading the calendar looking for an opportunity. I mean, imagine that, right? Gets in, I've got access to the CEO. You don't spam and phish people. No, this guy just sat there and waited, and waited, and waited. Then, of course, there was a meeting that was on the CEO's calendar, and they reviewed who was on the invite list. So we've got a program manager, we've got a purchasing guy, we've got the CEO. Oh, okay, those are the only people in this meeting? And then the attacker read the emails, figured out what was kind of going on, what was going to be discussed. And then during the meeting, there's an email to the CFO. I'm in this meeting I've told you about. We need to transfer some funds. Think about the patience, the planning, the action that was taken here, right? Person just gets in, understands what's going on, and it's not spamming email out or not doing credential phishing for other employees. It's sending that one message out with social context of the attendees, of the business relationship, of all that stuff, all right? And in this case, unfortunately, money was sent, but the CFO came over to the CEO after the meeting and said, hey, so I sent the money you asked. And the CEO said, what money? Because the attacker had deleted the email. It was not in the CEO's mailbox. Think about that. Those are the things that happen to CEOs, but anybody, that financial analyst, all those people. Now, how are people getting attacked? Now, I'm not going to throw up a big phishing email because everybody's seen what a phishing email looks like, but there's a couple interesting things that we've been seeing recently, which was we see people get email threats, but at the same time, we have a service we call Cloud Account Defense and SAP SaaS Defense, which will look at and will correlate a unusual activity in your Office 365 tenant. Someone got an email attack, unusual behavior, right? Now, in this case, we're looking at this person here, QA engineer in the Russian Federation, but there's a login from Hong Kong. The person is always logging in from the Russian Federation and suddenly appears in Hong Kong, right? Some of those things are relatively easy to pick out, but this is just a QA engineer, right? They know what's kind of going on, could be part of a negotiation fix. If you know a product is broken, you can negotiate harder. But anyway, it can be any of these kind of techniques. Now, if you think about social media, and there's some interesting pieces about that, right? We've been seeing new attacks. People will tweet out to the bank, I can't get a hold of anybody. I can't do anything. No one's responding. Now, care of the Twitter API, anybody who wants to try to spoof this can pick up on that conversation, pick up the hashtag or the @sign, respond, says, hey, apologies, we really want to help you out, click on this link. And where does it go? Social media phishing page, right? Could have been Facebook, could have been LinkedIn, all those other things could have happened that way. But why is this important, right? Everybody here is talking about, well, we've got some kind of email phishing technology. Well, guess what? Email phishing, everybody's got some solution that they claim will block the email phishing, but how many are be catching this? All right, how many are catching that kind of technology, whether it's in their Facebook or Twitter or their LinkedIn, right? At the same time, actually here at Proofpoint, we were hit by a massive attack last year. A number of people kind of coming in with SMS phishing, sending these links in, claiming accounts were invalidated, whatever else might be. Click this link and you know, fix your B of A account, right? Now, has anybody else seen those? There was like a big rash from last year, much less this year, right? And if you click that page, you get a B of A login page, which looks really good, and you don't actually see the URL bar because it's a phone, right? The phone screens were like, you know, an inch to half inch smaller last year. They don't put up the browser address in all the browsers on your phone. So if you got this one, you may have never even known it didn't come from B of A. May not have been obvious at all. Now, we also have a service which, you know, crawls 300 app stores worldwide, and we're finding apps, you know, the misspells, there's other things that are kind of in there. We're finding apps all over the place where we're finding it, they're downloaded, and they're actual apps with real branded banking company names. And they're not being caught, not being stopped. How is that allowed? Well, again, depending upon what that app store looks like, or if any of you use Amazon and you turn on allow third-party downloads, you can suddenly access any of these other app stores. When you visit a page, it might just pop it up. But all those app stores are not vetted in the same way. They're not vetted in the same way, and we've got some history of finding certain apps. In fact, some of you may have remembered a couple years ago, WinZip was actually infected with Xcode Ghost in the apps at the developer level. So everybody who downloaded WinZip in that period of time for about a month and a half, they were getting WinZip with malware baked in, sending data back, right? On the other hand, there's also apps that just steal your data and they just send it over to China. And it was just fascinating being through some of that, because we actually had a bunch of our salespeople using an app called Camcard that was sending data to China. And if you read page 6 or 7 in their 16-page user license, it wasn't blocked by Apple or Google because it said on page 6 or 7 that we have a royalty-free, perpetual, non-exclusive right to use all your contact information and any new contacts you add to us, right? So if you don't read your policies, you're liable to get your information stolen from the mobile side. Okay, and this is the one that gets even more interesting, right? So there's, you know, dark web monitoring services. We've got one of them. There's, you know, the site called Have I Been Pwned? Everybody knows that one, right? Have I Been Pwned? Right? Good. So you can basically go out, you can use or find some other tools, and you will find email addresses and the actual passwords used. And I expect most of us here in this room to be fairly savvy about changing passwords or password reuse, but there's a lot of people out there, password 1234, or even they choose a unique password, they reuse it over and over and over again, right? Some of these names are, well, these are real names, but again, you don't know what the company is, and they should change their password, damn it. I'm encouraging them, if their name is here and you know these people, change their passwords. Because this is published, not just from me, but this is published in a whole bunch of other magazines where stuff came up. Okay? Think about that, right? You can go to Have I Been Pwned, type in anybody's email address, find out if it's in there. Then you can actually find the source paste bin where those addresses are, find out the email address and the passwords used. That's what the bad guys have access to. That's what they use. They go after these things. Okay. Now, this is the part where I'm the messenger. I'm not telling you to do any bad things, just so you know, right? The bad guys have access to a bunch of tools. The keyword, for those of you who want to be bad people, the keyword is OSINT. You go to Google, type in OSINT, you get a bunch of these tools. There are so many of these tools, it's crazy, right? So what I wanted to do is kind of give you guys an idea what you can get from this. So anybody, first of all, anybody here know Neil deGrasse Tyson personally? Okay. So maybe you can tell me if the information is correct. So I love watching Planet Earth, so I type in his name, I said populate it all, and this is actually 1/3 of all the engines that will search for him, okay? I click populate all, it drops into all these search engines, and then you can basically submit all to try to find information. So it just kind of pops up, says, hey, Neil deGrasse Tyson, New York, Harvard, username, phone number, oh, address. Everybody heard of doxing, right? Address and associated with family members, right? I didn't give you all the details so you can attack him, but again, this is not just me doing it in any kind of special secret way. This is what any of you or any attackers can get by going to Google, typing OSINT, and then choosing your friendliest or funnest tool, okay? There are a bunch of tools, you know, I'm not going to go through all of these, but just think about this one. These are just a whole bunch of OS tools with a clean UI. You can just easily go in and click, get the information you want about people, right? This one actually goes about 18 more pages, so I tried to load the whole thing in Proofpoint just to be interesting, but Proofpoint would freeze, so it couldn't handle that size of graphic. Same kind of thing here, right? And look, it's so handy. You type in OSINT tools, and this page will show up, right? And this one is, I think this one's only like 8 times longer than what I'm showing you here. But pick your social network, pick your social media, pick your tool, and it will come up with all kinds of stuff about your people, your employees, your friends, and even your family. All right, when people say be careful what you put out there, people have access to it in all kinds of ways. So put things in perspective, right? Most people think about security in this way. The defender's going to put up a firewall with a DMZ and another firewall. But as you're starting to see, there's all these things happening out in the cloud. So the defender's point of view of protecting that network is completely changed. In fact, some people might say it's broken, right? So if you understand that, you can have a different perspective of what you do on security, right? Where does that security spend go? People put a lot of networking security, sure you should. Endpoint security, sure you should. Web, yeah, you should. But even then, with all these breadths of attacks, 93% still come through email. So think about all these social media attacks, all this social engineering, the fact that there's no protections against social media, how things get through. You've got to really think about how you spend, how you protect, and what you protect. Because with that little information, some of the stuff I pulled out there, you know, if that information is accurate, I could call up Neil deGrasse Tyson and say, oh, I know your sister, brother, mother, XYZ at Harvard, right? And suddenly you've built yourself some credibility in that conversation. Now, if you apply that thinking to people like I talked about earlier, our financial analyst, financial planner, right? They're a person with access, and once you understand the risks and the coverage and the things that they do and possible maybe compliance violations that go on, you then can determine what controls that you need, and a lot of them are not going to be just at the network side, right? So just think about all those pieces because, again, as we're saying, your attackers know more about your employees than you do. My name is Dwayne Kuroda. I'm from Proofpoint. Every single attack that you see here, that I've showed here, we actually have defenses against mechanisms like that. But we've got a whole bunch of other technologies around email, mobile, social, network, SaaS, etc. Come talk to us at the booth. Enter if you haven't been scanned to win your boardless skateboard. Come ask us questions about some of these things that you saw here or that you're interested in about the way that we detect some of these activities. And lastly, we have a human factor report that talks about how people do maybe not so smart things and how they're continually affected, how they're popped, what they do wrong, and how they can be socially engineered. My name is Dwayne Kuroda, and also my email address, if you got questions, dkuroda@proofpoint.com. Thanks, everyone.